I've been going through my top 5 favorite monsters in various monster books over the last week, and it might seem weird for me to have picked up The Rise of the Drow off my shelf for the next top 5 video. But if you've never looked inside this book, there's something you need to know, and that is that the monster section is absolutely massive. 200 or so pages, and granted, many of those are straight up reprints from the monster manual, just creatures that they lifted because they're used in the adventure itself. But there's also quite a few really cool monsters in here that are brand new or are just unique spins on familiar creatures. And since this is an Underdark book, the vast majority of the creatures herein are native to my favorite RPG setting. So let's jump into my top 5, starting with the Skid Patter. All the way over on 485, you'll find this giant monstrosity of a creature. These giant turtle monsters, not to be confused with dragon turtles, function as beasts of burden for dwarves who claim that they were bred from Bulays. These things are giant domesticated creatures, but they're also very big and very hungry, so it's a good idea not to mistreat them. Number 4 on my list takes us way back to page 347 for the Onyx Ooze. Now, the Onyx Ooze is, in a lot of ways, just a giant gelatinous cube, but it's darker and gargantuan in size, and it spawns black puddings when it takes damage. It's challenge rating 17, so by the time a party's high enough level to take this on, it's probably not that much of a challenge just because players can so easily outpace it with speed and ranged attacks. But in a confined space, this thing is absolutely terrifying, and I just love the flavor of this monster. Now for number 3 on my list, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to say that my favorite monster at number 3 is the Drow. Now, when I say the Drow, what I actually mean is the 20 pages of stat blocks they have for various Drow opponents and NPCs and things in the adventure. When you tend toward running Underdark campaigns like I do, it's convenient to have a ton of stat blocks just like this, especially spread out over such a variety of levels. They range from CR 1/4 all the way up to CR 18. And if you like Drow, this is a great place to look for some interesting stat blocks, even if you never intend to run the adventure as is. Number 2 on my list is the Zwerk Hermit. I admittedly don't know a whole lot about AAW's campaign setting, but the Zwerk are just downright interesting. They're basically super smart dwarves who have gone into voluntary exile to focus on mastering magic. The example stat block that we have here shows us a dwarf with a weird combination of magical abilities. Summoning an earth elemental, walking through stone, shaking the ground to knock people prone, lots more than that. I've never run one of these before, but they look super cool, and since I'm about to run Rise of the Drow, or at least a variation of it with elements of Night Below cooked in, I'm really excited to see how the party interacts when they encounter one of these. Now, my actual favorite monster in this book, I'm going to skip, because I want to make sure that anybody who may eventually play this in the future doesn't get the spoiler that would go along with it. In its place, I'm going to default to my daughter's number 1 favorite monster in this book. Now, she's seen very few of them, to be fair. She was sitting next to me one day when I was prepping for a game, and she happened to notice the Svirfneblin Slug. Now, I've never seen these in the Forgotten Realms setting, but Blingden Stone definitely needs some of these. There are simple riding slugs, which are slow but can climb, so I guess that's a plus. If you're gonna be slow in the Underdark, you might as well be able to climb some walls, right? They do look kind of cute, and I understand why my daughter really wants one for her character in the campaign we're running. I'm leaning towards saying yes, just kind of thinking through what kind of quests she'll need to go on in order to find and train one of these things. But then there's the Siege Slug, and the name fits. These things are huge, beefy, spit acid, and deal double damage to objects and structures like a true siege monster. If you didn't take that Svirfneblin army seriously before, seeing one of these on the way might change your mind. And there we have it with my top 5 favorites from Rise of the Drow.